Good morning, everyone. Thank you for making time for today's webinar for MIST and Hybrid PRISMS API integration. We would like to welcome you to this session. We will show you what we have offered for this integration today. Thanks for joining. Hope you all are having a good day. I'm also joined by Shivangi today. So we will be going through this integration and presenting you this feature. So if you have any questions while we do the presentation, please feel free to write in the chat box. We will try to get back to you today itself, or if not, then we will compile all your questions and get back to you via the support tickets. So please make sure you also write the caller's name so that we can identify where are you from. So let's get started. So in today's session, we will show you about the MIST Hybrid PRISMS integration. My name is Binod. So hope you know me already. So in today's session, the following are the agenda. So first thing first, we will give you like a brief introduction of the PRISMS. Hope you already, all of you already know it, but still, I'll try to introduce the PRISMS as well. So we'll go through the integration highlights, and we'll also talk about the API configuration, what we need to do to configure the integration in the MIST platform. We will talk about the user authorization, so how a user can authorize themselves to use the feature. So there are certain requirements for the data entry and mapping. So we will also talk about the COE creation checklist. So you need to fill this or complete this before you'll be able to create a successful COE. That includes the provider type setup, so some sort of data mapping, so initial prepaid fee details, English test requirement details, and any other additional information for under 18 applicants, which includes the guardianship details and welfare details. And the main part is the COE management. So for this, we will show you how you can find or create the PRISMS student record. So that is to validate if the student already exists in PRISMS with COE before. System will try to find the PRISMS student record based on the provided details. Course location mapping, so which course they are enrolled into and what are the details of the courses and so on. Applicant welfare arrangement details, if applicable, and that is for the under 18 students. And finally, the COE creation via API. So once the COE is created, you can also view certain COE statuses via API. And you can also perform the student course variation or cancel the COE via API. So let's talk about the PRISMS first. So it's Provider Registration and International Student Management System, which is a secure system managed by the Department of Education, Skills and Employment to manage or administer the education for overseas students. So PRISMS has developed an API which they are offering to the SMS providers like us, through which education providers like you can connect to the PRISMS via API and then manage the COE efficiently. This obviously will enhance the efficiency in the COE creation process and the enrollment process as well, and make the job easier for you and also for the international students. So this obviously will remove a lot of manual and double data handling to manage the COE. So if you want to know more about this PRISMS modernization project, what it has to offer and how long, or what is the scope and so on, so you can go to www.education.gov.au/PRISMS-modernization-project. So let's talk about the highlights of this integration. So first thing is the configuration. So the configuration is very quick in this integration. So you don't have to need to have a very technical knowledge or things like that, and it doesn't take time as well. So the only details we need to configure is some sort of credentials from the PRISMS API portal. So if you are interested to use this integration, or if you want to explore more, then you can reach out to the PRISMS team today itself to get the configuration details. What details you need, I'll talk about it in the next slide. So authentication for this integration, it is totally managed by PRISMS. So you don't need to use your any sort of details in Mist platform. For the authentication, we will redirect you to the Prisms login page where you will use your existing Prisms authentication details, and from there you will be redirected back to Mist system, and then the authentication is successful. So the authentication is totally managed by Prisms. By that, you can be assured that it's secure. So next thing is agent management. So in terms of agent management, you have a different set of information for agents in Mist platform, and you may have a different set of information in Prisms. So to make them consistent across two platforms, we offer some sort of data mapping, and also you can update the details based on the Prisms. So you can do the agent mapping as well in this integration. So the next thing is venue management. So similar to agents, you might have a different set of campus location in Prisms and different set of venue or campuses in Mist platform. So you can also map those venues across to make it consistent into platforms. And this mapping, this agent and venue mapping will be only specific to this integration. So no other data updates will happen here. So the next thing is overseas student health cover provider mapping. So Prisms has a predefined list of OHSC providers. So you may record n number of providers in MESH system, but Prisms only accept 6 providers. So you need to map those OHSC providers in order to create a successful COE if OHSC is applicable for an applicant or a student. So next thing is student welfare management. So you may have already known our additional service setup section in Mist platform. So in that section, you can do the service setups for the student welfare, and then these details will be used to send for the COE creation for the applicants wherever it's applicable. The next and last piece is the COE management, where you can create the COE, cancel the COE, record the student variation, retrieve the information from Prisms for viewing purpose, and so on. So we'll talk about that as well in the later slides. So configuration. So as I mentioned before, so we would need certain details from Prisms API portal. So to acquire these details, you can straight away log an inquiry to prisms@education.gov.au. You can do it now as well, so that they will take around a week to 3-4 weeks to give you those details back. That may include some sort of cybersecurity questionnaire or any other assessments. So that is all managed by Prisms team. Once they authorize you to use the system API, then you can provide us the Prisms client ID, which you may see as a subscription name, and Prisms OCP API and subscription key, which you may see as a primary key in your API portal. So once you acquire these details, you can simply pass these to us, and we will configure them in the Mist platform. So as admin users can view those information once we save it for you, and other users can't see it, but as admin users can see those details as well, just in case you need to refer for some sort of your requirements. So authorization, as I mentioned before, so authorization is managed by Prisms. So once you click authorize in Mesh system, it will redirect you to your Prisms login page. So you need to use your Prisms account details and authorize yourself. That may be followed by multi-factor authentication. So we've seen that they use Microsoft Authenticator app, but they may do any sort of multi-factor authentication. So that again entirely managed by Prisms. So when authorization is initiated in Mesh system will prompt you to this authentication page. So in order to use this integration, you must have a COE administrator login in Prisms so that you can successfully create a COE and also do the SCVs if required. Because through API, only COE administrator can perform these functions. If you only have a COE create user access, then you may not be able to perform these actions through API. So user authorization can be of two sorts. One is the first time user authentication. Let's say you have one user in the system and then they are using the integration for the first time. So you just need to click set Prisms credentials once. It will save your details in the database. And after that, you need to click authorize with Prisms. What it will do is it will authorize your user for the next 24 hours. So authorization token is valid for only 24 hours. That is also again managed by Prisms for security purposes. So if you use the Prisms feature now and then you may want to use it after let's say 2 days, then you will have to reauthorize yourself. It's just a click of a button and it will redirect you to the same authentication page. You provide the valid credentials and system will prompt you back as authorized user. So you can start using the feature. So if you are an existing user which you have already used before, you simply need to come back and just click this button, authorize yourself. That's pretty simple as that. So now to create a successful COE, there are certain data requirements in the MEST platform, and all this data is not basically requirement from MEST, but a requirement from PRISMS API. So you need to ensure all these details are accurate and up to date so that you can create a COE successfully. So the first information is provider type setup. So this would mean that you need to specify if you are a private provider or a public provider based on your Cricos registration. So you can specify this in the MEST platform as well. So data mapping needs to be done. So it will include agent data mapping, venue data mapping, and OSHC provider data mapping. Applicant details, you need to make sure your applicant information is up to date and accurate. So that may include their date of birth, first name, last name, passport number, visa details, and so on. So depending upon the origin of the student, like onshore or offshore, visa number may be required and so on. So you need to make sure all these details are correct. So course enrollment details, it will include the course information like the course start date, end date, and agent involved and so on. So these details also need to be correct. So next information is about the OSHC. So you also need to make sure that the OSHC information recorded in MEST system is correct. If the OSHC is applicable for a student, you should assign that OSHC service to the student as well. So you need to make sure this information is right as well. And initial prepaid fee details, this is a newly added field in MEST system as well. So if a student has paid any upfront fee, like related to tuition or non-tuition fees, you need to provide the details for those fields as well. If English language test requirement is there for an applicant or a student, then you need to provide those details as well. For this, there are already existing fields in MEST system. You just need to record the information there. The next piece is the agent details. You need to make sure that the agent information is correct. Their agent name, email address, and so on are correct in MEST system. And then you have done the mapping as well. So if an applicant is a under 18 applicant or a student, then you need to provide certain information for that applicant, which includes the guardianship details and their welfare arrangement details. Provider can opt out to or not to provide the welfare services as well. So all those information is required to create a COE. So first thing is provider type setup. So you may be already familiar with this page. So you will see a public provider tick box here. So based on your Cricos registry, if you are a public provider, you just need to tick it. If you're not a public provider, then you leave it unchecked. So you can check your Cricos registration for getting this information. And if it's not applicable to you, then if you're a private provider, then just leave it unchecked. So that's simple as that. It's a one subset of for your platform. So data mapping includes three data mapping, as I mentioned before as well. First is agent data mapping, where you will map the existing agent in MEST platform with the existing agents in the PRISM system as well. So the system will provide you the bulk mapping option as well for all these options. So venue mapping as well, you may have a different list of venues or location in PRISM's system based on the Cricos registry, and you may have a different set in MEST platform. You just need to map them so that system will understand that the venue exists in PRISMs and a valid one. This also counts towards your allocation for the respective venue in PRISMs. And OSHC provider mapping, as I mentioned before as well. So PRISMs has a defined set of OHSC providers. You just need to map the existing OHSC provider in MEST with those in the PRISMs. So let's talk about the agent mapping now. So in the agent mapping page, you will see, or you can list out the agents that are existing in MEST based on the agent name or email and so on. And you also have a defined list of agents in PRISMs as well. So the system will fetch the real-time information from PRISMs based on the existing agents. You can simply map your current agent with that from the PRISMs. So if system finds a matching record based on the agent name and agent email address, system will recommend you a matched record. You just simply need to save. If system can't find a matching record, then you can again come back to this drop down, select the matching one, and then just save. So that's simple as that. So you can map multiple agents from MIST platform to a single Prisms record. And so you can also update, delete, or save this mapping at any point of time as per your requirement. Similar to agent, venue also works the same way. So system will bring back the real-time information from Prisms API based on the existing venues that you have in Prisms. And then it will also suggest the matching record, which is very less likely because in Prisms, you have a certain location name, but this location name must exactly match to the full address of the venue in our system, which is like less likely to match. But again, you can simply see the drop down and choose what location it refers to in MEST to what location it refers to in Prisms, and simply map it and map the saving. You can do this in bulk as well. Similar to this one, you can similar to agents, you can save, update, or delete as per your requirement as well. The next one is OSCC provider. So PRISMS has a defined list of OSCC providers, which includes Australian Health Management, Bupa, Medibank, OSHCY Alliance, NIB, and CBHS International Health. So apart from that, if you have any other sort of insurance providers in MEST platform, then you need to map these with Prisms as well based on this list. So let's say you may have a setup in MEST platform as Bupa single, Bupa couple or something like that. Then you can map those to Bupa Australia so that it also supports the multiple mapping to one single OSHA provider in Prisms. So and like any other functions, it also supports bulk feature for mapping, and you can also save, update, and delete the mapping as per your requirement. So initial prepaid tuition fee is a newly added field in the system, which you can see against the offer under the offers managed page, or at the student's course section if it's a student stays. So this section will require the initial prepaid tuition fee information like the amount, the start date, the end date, and any other non-tuition fee if applicable, their payment mode, and the date. So if student has paid any prepaid tuition fee, you need to provide these details. If not, then you can simply provide the amount as zero and save the prepayment. If a student has paid more than 50% of the total course fee, then the payer consent field will also appear in the system, which you need to confirm so that you are saying that the student has provided consent to pay the 50%, more than 50% of the total tuition fee. So if nothing is there, you simply can record zero. So English test requirement. I'm not sure if all of you have seen this page, but it's under the student section where ESOS tile you can see as English test. So this is as per the PRISMS compliance requirement, which includes all the information as per the requirement. So we don't pick the English test information from student profile, but rather we do it from this English test page. So where you can specify if any exemptions are there. If not, then what are the English tests taken by the student, score, and the tested, and so on, based on the type of the English test that the student has undertaken. So you need to record this information if English test is also applicable for any student. So let's talk about the under 18 applicants. So there are additional data requirements for these kind of applicants, which includes the guardianship details. So for this integration purpose, we have extended the guardian information in the MEST platform. So it's the same section as emergency guardian contact under student profile, but you will see an extended field of information required for this integration and other compliance purposes as well, which includes that extended address, Australian address, and other details. So if a student is under 18 years of age, at least 12 weeks before the course started, this date requirement is again imposed by PRISMS. You may also refer to the PRISMS provider user guide you may already have. So this is the same requirement from the API as well. So if applicant is under 18 years of age, at least before like 12 weeks before the course started, then this information is required. And it's again under the same section that you've been using so far. It's under the emergency and guardian contact information. And the next information required for under 18 applicants is the student welfare details. So welfare details PRISMS only accept like these four welfare details. One is homestay, the other is residential college, the boarding school, and other. So if you are managing the service setup in the mesh platform, you need to make sure that you are recording type of stay as this information. So you need to supply this information as well. If a provider doesn't accept the welfare arrangement for the student, you have to select a checkbox in the system saying that you don't accept the, or you're not offering the welfare services, and the system will pass that same information while creating the COE. So these are the main important information that we need for creating a successful COE. And so we'll talk about the COE management now. So I want to pass this to Shivangi for the explanation.
Thank you, Binod. I hope everyone has been understanding because it's a lot of information to take in, given the fields that we have in the system and the number of fields that we've extended. I would just like to add a couple of things on top of what Binod has said. And the initial prepaid fee fields that we have shown are new fields in the system, and they'll only come with this integration. So if you do not have this integration yet activated on your platform, you won't be able to find these fields under the student or the offer page. So once this feature is activated, once the PRISMS API integration is up and running on your platform, these new fields will appear. However, the guardianship fields that are extended, yes, thank you. The guardianship fields that are extended, these are extended for all the platforms, regardless of the feature itself, because we understand that it is important to record the data in a better and extended way. So you will see these extended fields regardless of the feature. So let's move on to the PRISM COE management, where we will see how we can create, cancel, or view COE in mesh system itself using the API. If you have any questions for whatever has been discussed till now or whatever will be discussed further, please feel free to use the chat box along with your college name so that we can answer the questions in today's session itself, or we can use the support tickets later to reach out. Now, before I talk about the COE management process in the system itself, one thing we need to understand is that PRISMS is a one-way integration in a sense that the data recorded in the mesh system can be sent to PRISMS, but you will not be able to import any data back to mesh system to record. The only thing that can be imported is the COE status. You will be able to view the COE status using the API and the agent venue and OSHC details, but the system will not auto update anything except the COE status in the mesh system. So let's begin with the PRISM COE management. So as Binod covered a few areas that are the main areas or main sections where we require data in order to create a COE. Please remember that there are also other sections such as the student details, the course details, which are very generic fields in the system that you should be using already for creating an offer, application, or a student record. So those details must obviously be correct, but on top of that, the additional fields that we covered before are the ones that are required by PRISMS to create a COE. If you see the process of COE creation in the mesh platform using the API, that's quite similar to how the process is actually on the PRISM's UI as well. So this PRISM COE management page in our system will be divided into two sections. If you can see, it will offer the offer section as well as the student section for you to view the data. The offer section will contain a list of offers that are eligible to create a new COE, and the student section will offer this list of students where the student may be eligible to create a new COE. There are certain course statuses that we have included for both offer and student sections to appear on this page. And you will see the multi-campus filter or the campus filter if the multi-campus module is enabled. Rest other search by filters on this page are very similar to how you have under the offer manage or the student page. Any domestic student obviously will not appear on this page because they do not really require a COE. So you will only be looking at onshore and offshore international students. If you have any student or offer in the system where you have already recorded a COE manually, or if you have recorded the COE as NA, not applicable, or marked it as no COE required, you will not be able to see those records on this page as well. So ideally, it needs to be a new offer or student record in the relevant list of statuses, as you will find more information in the user guide to be available on this page to create a COE. So these are the steps that we ideally can say are used to create a COE. So first step is find or create PRISM student record. Now, even before this comes the data entry part, as we have talked about quite a lot now. So once your data entry is accurate and you have that in place, you have done the data mapping for PRISMs as well, you have a valid authentication, you can go on to create or find a student in PRISMs. So as it is done in the PRISMS UI, the system will first use the applicant or the student information to look up the student record in the PRISMS database. If the system is successful, or if the API is successful in finding the student record in PRISMS, it will return a successful student ID or a student number, which is more of a resource number than a student ID. This resource number or the student number is later on used by the system to create, cancel, or view the COE. Second stage is to save the course location mapping. So once you have done the venue mapping, as Binod talked about earlier, which is mapping the venues in the mesh system to the venues you have registered in Cricos registry, once that part is completed, the second step is to record the course location mapping, which is for each course in our system, the course is linked with a campus. However, in PRISMs, you may have locations registered very differently to how the locations are registered in meshed. So to ensure consistency, we will need to select which course is relevant to which campus in the mesh system. Third step, which is required only if it is applicable for under 18 students, is to do the welfare arrangement details. Now, how Binod talked about saving the welfare arrangement details when the provider is accepting the responsibility. However, in cases where the education provider or the institution does not accept the responsibility for arranging students' welfare, you also have an option to specify or opt out, and the system will send the details as no. So in that case, the education provider has declared that they are not accepting the responsibility for any welfare arrangements. And finally, once all this is cleared, you can go ahead and create a COE. Once successful, the system returns a COE number, and it also gives you an option to download the COE certificate, which can be saved in the system directly. So let's look at the very first step, which is finding or creating the PRISM student record. Applicant details such as the full name, date of birth, country of birth, passport number, visa number, and other such details are required to create or find a student record in PRISMs. If any of these details are inaccurate or do not match, you must ensure that you have these details recorded accurately before you can create or find a student record. In the applicant information window itself, we have given the edit options for passport number and visa number to facilitate data entry. However, if any of the other fields such as date of birth, country of birth, student name or title, or any other information is inaccurate, you will need to get redirected to the offer or student page and then fix those data and come back. Any information about the applicant must not change after the PRISM student record is created. So as you can see in the screenshot here, the PRISM student ID is returned successfully. It means the details that we have sent for this student are received by PRISMs, and PRISMs has given a successful number, as you can see in the PRISM student ID field. If you change any student information after this point, it will only get changed in the mesh system, because PRISM's API does not allow any updates to be made as such. It may be available in the future, but at this stage, there is no indication in their API that we can make any updates. So before you create any student record in PRISMs, please ensure that all the data recorded in the mesh system is accurate. Once you have created the student record, the button will disappear from the screen. So the find or create PRISM student record will not appear again. It's a once-off thing that you need to do for any student or offer record. Moving on, we have the course location mapping. So as I mentioned before, for each course in our system, you will need a location or a venue to map. Each Cricos course is registered in PRISMS for delivery in one or more Cricos registered locations. Based on the Cricos code that you have in the meshed system, the venue to map dropdown will have the list of venues. If the Cricos code for the course is incorrect in our system and does not match any record in the PRISM system, you will see that the dropdown value for locations is empty. So data entry is very important in the whole process. Once all these details are correct and you have done the venue mapping, you can simply select which of the listed venues is applicable for students' COE creation. If you have not done the venue mapping before this step, you will again not be able to see any list of venues appearing in the dropdown. Once you confirm these details, you can simply click on Save Course Location Mapping and the system will store the course against this particular location in the database to send to create a COE. Next step is the applicant welfare arrangement details only if applicable. So as we mentioned before, if the student is under 18 years of age, at least 12 weeks before the proposed course start date, you will see that the system requires you to record the student welfare details. Now, the 12 weeks timeline before the course start date again comes from PRISMS. You may be able to check the provider resources for this. In cases where you have accepted the responsibility and there is a service setup linked with the student, given that the type of stay values are correct, the system will not display any notification as such, as you can see on the screen. However, when the student is under 18 years of age and the system cannot find any welfare setup that you have done or it is not assigned to the student, you will see this notification appear telling you that the student requires welfare arrangement details to be declared. In cases where you are accepting the responsibility, you can click yes and save and link the relevant welfare service to the student. But if you're not accepting the responsibility and not arranging any welfare services, you can simply select the option as no and click on Save Welfare Arrangement. This saves the student welfare responsibility arrangement as no. And when creating a COE, you will see that the system passes the value as no, which can be also seen on the student COE certificate that gets generated. Finally, we have Create COE via API. So once you have completed all the preliminary setup as we have talked about just now, the last step is creating the COE, which is just using one button in the system. So once you click that button, you will be able to generate a COE record for the student. All the information that gets sent includes all the information that you have recorded so far for student, course, agent, English test, and other fields in the system. One thing to note here is in any of the previous setup that we have talked about, or while creating the COE, if your token expires at any point, which means the 24-hour period elapses, the system will not be able to go any further and you will see validation error telling you the authentication expiry, which means that you will need to go to the authorize with prisms button again and reauthorize yourself with prisms. So the 24-hour timeline is very critical in performing any of the actions on the prism COE management page. Again, if you are not a user who has the COE administrator access in Prisms, you will not be able to do anything on the Prism COE management page, which is to create a COE, cancel a COE, view a COE. You may have certain restrictions imposed by Prisms, and the API will give you certain errors if the access level is limited. So once, sorry, just the previous slide again, please. Thank you. So once the COE is created by the system, if we zoom in on the screenshot, you will be able to see that the system returns the COE number uh, along with the COE status, which in this case is approved. And the system also stores the date and time along with the username of the user who created the COE for the student. This also gets stored against the relevant offer or student record in the system. And as you can see, there are multiple action icons that appear once a COE has been generated. On the next slide, we have shown you how a COE certificate may look like, which is the actual COE certificate that you may have seen before. This is a COE certificate, sorry, that you can download directly using the API. Once the certificate is downloaded, the information gets stored in the student or offer document upload section. All the details that you can see on the COE certificate are as per the data that you have recorded in the mesh system. Once the process of the creation of COE is completed, there is an option for you to view the current COE status or the current information for a COE coming directly from PRISMS using a blue button, as you can see on the screen. This button fetches the real-time information for the COE that you have created, which you can also use to compare in the mesh system to see if the data is consistent or not. Please note that this does not update any information back to the mesh system. The only thing that it will update is the COE status. In cases, for example, where the COE was created under approved status and now it is changed to studying status, once you click this button, the system will auto update the COE status to studying. Besides that, any information that you update directly in PRISMS does not flow back via API. So this button is just a real-time information button for you to view the current status of COE in PRISMS. Finally, we have the COE cancellation or student course variation process. Any COEs that you generate using the API in the mesh system can also have the SCVs or student course variations applied to them. Currently, PRISM's API allows for 4 SCVs, as you can see on your screen, to be used. The very first one is administration error. This is one of the SCVs that can be applied almost instantly after you have created a COE. This error is, or the SCV is mostly used when you know that some of the data that you have sent for the course or the fee or the English test or any other field for the student's course enrollment is incorrect. You can specify the course variation comments in the mesh system, click confirm, and that will render the COE cancelled. Second option is the student has left provider, as you can see. This is used when ideally the student has notified the provider that he won't be returning and has switched the colleges. You can quote this reason and specify the last day of study for the student along with the termination date. In cases, system may also ask you if the student commenced any studies or not. Providing all the information, you can simply again click confirm and proceed to cancel the COE. At number 3, we have non-commencement of studies. If the student never commenced the studies, you can also quote the reason, again provide certain details and cancel the COE. Last option that we have is the notified cessation of studies. In cases where the student provides a formal notification that he would not be continuing the studies any further, you can again quote the reason and use this SCV for COE cancellation. For any SCVs that you use in the system to cancel, the system will also give you a prompt to confirm to proceed. So it will be a confirmation coming from the system asking you to confirm the cancellation. So once the cancellation is successful, you will be able to see a success message on your screen. If there are any errors or warnings at any point while creating a COE or while canceling a COE, those will also be displayed by API. So once a COE is cancelled, what happens in the system is the COE number gets removed, the COE status gets updated to cancelled, and the system allows you to recreate a COE if you required. In the second screenshot, as you can see, we have taken it from the PRISM's test environment. So the COE status before SCV was approved, and soon after the SCV was applied, it changes to cancelled. With all the details that we used for the SCV, they can also be reflected in the PRISMs as well. So any COE that you create using the mesh system, you should be able to simply view it in the PRISM system along with all the details that have been sent through. With this, we come to the end of the session for today. If you have any questions or any inquiries and you would like to have a demo for this feature, you can always contact us at support@meshgroup.com.au. Even now, if any one of you has any questions, we are more than happy to answer. Thank you very much.